overall picture, who knows what's going to happen in the future. I mean, look at the short run. Americans are buying more big trucks and big SUVs, and we're actually polluting more than we were 5 years ago because, yeah, cars are more efficient, but people are buying the big, not efficient ones because they want big cars, trucks, big SUVs, right? So who knows exactly what's going to happen in the future. But in certain areas, probably will be a lot more smaller ones than maybe small electric cars for small journeys. It's kind of a lot.
This is almost comical watching this guy. Yeah, I think I got the flu, but anyway. Glands are swollen, it's in my nose, it's in my eyes, but it's almost comical watching this guy. He said, oh, fuel mileage sucks, it's more than it ever has been. It's not doing what it's supposed to. Then you look at the EPA report. Oh, yeah. Almost everything's in a positive. Now, they do say here, average new vehicle fuel economy, horsepower, weight, and footprint are all at record highs. Now, how do I interpret that? I don't know, but I look at the other stuff and it pretty much says everything about positive. More fuel economy, more power, more this, more that. And we're actually getting more power and more fuel economy out of the bigger vehicles anyway, so I don't necessarily agree with his statement on it. It just seems like a bunch of rubbish, a bunch of non-important talking points coming more from an opinion than fact-based. Let's get into the next part.
Douglas Robinson says, I got an '01 Toyota Sienna. There's no power under the fuel pump. I changed the fuel pump and relay, no power. Took it to shop, still no power to the fuel pump. Do you have any idea what the problem is? All right. Everything's computerized these days. You turn the key on, it goes to computer modules, goes to relays. There's all kinds of crap. And that's what, 23 years old now. If people can't find the problem, it could easily be in your computer. But hey, let's simplify things. All that pump needs is power and ground, right? Find a power wire, send power from the positive terminal of the battery with a jumper cable to that wire. If it runs, then my advice, just wire it that way. Put a toggle switch in your dash. So you turn the toggle switch on, then it pump primes and you drive it around that way. Start it and drive it. Simple. Just turn it off when you're done. Very easy fix. Because if you're going to try to fix it the way it was designed, you're going through a computer system, and there's all kinds of expensive parts that can go wrong, and all kinds of shorts. Running a simple wire with a toggle switch and, say, a fuse will solve all your problems. If that does, great. Do that. It's so much simpler than tracing through all the complexity of the vehicle. Jose, can...
Yeah. Jose, can you see? I got it. That was the dumbest recommendation I've ever heard him give somebody, and one of the most unsafest recommendations I've ever heard him give somebody on figuring out a fuel pump issue. Let's look. Here's a fuel pump. This is for a 2001 Toyota. You click out of this. 2001 Toyota truck, Sienna 3.0. Click on the diagrams here, and then we will go and look at. Let's zoom in a little bit. Drag it down. Okay. How is the pump? Here's the fuel pump. How's it getting power? Pin 3 of the relay. So how does the relay get power? Well, it needs to be energized here, on this wire here. So this wire has to supply power in order for this pole to move. Once this pole moves, it will then receive power from here that is powered up by this over here. And when you turn the key forward, this energizes and closes that pole. So, you need to make sure you got power at your relay first, pin 2. Then you got to make sure you got power at pin 3 coming out of it. They make testing kits for that. Power Probe has them, many people have them. You can even make your own makeshift or take the back of a relay off, an old junk one that still works, and test with a multimeter at this pin with your key in the on position and make sure you're getting power here. If you're not getting power here in this pin, then you need to come back to this side. If you're getting power here on this side, but it's not transferring through the wire in the box, getting over here to this side, then you got a problem inside your box. It's pretty simple. This diagram is very, very easy to follow. So, when we get to a point where we're ready to look further, let's see where. So, dash harness, lower left side. It comes over to, so let's roll down a little bit. So that wire, the main supply, to make that pole move, comes from this over here. It's W7. It is a black and orange wire that goes into the ignition fuse, which is a 5 amp fuse. That fuse is then fed by an ignition switch. So when you turn it in, the power in the on position, it travels through the ignition fuse, it travels through this wire here, you can have a break at the splice right here, lower right side end of dash, and then it travels all the way up here. So if anything, and I lost power there, I would be more comfortable with running power to this ignition fuse over here rather than running power directly to the pump. So if you don't have power from this ignition fuse and you want to put a 5 amp fuse in place, because that's a dedicated, let's see what else would be on this. If there was no power, ignition fuse 5 amp, where does this come from over here? Black and red also gets supplied by that. And that goes igniter and ignition coils. So that fuse also supplies the power. Junction, joint connector, right side of engine dash. And then it goes up and feeds your ignition coils. So make sure you have spark. If you have spark, then make sure your fuse is good. If your fuse is good, make sure you got power coming down here on this leg. If that leg is good, make sure you got power over on pin 2 at your relay. If you got power at pin 2 in your relay, make sure when it's energized that you are getting power over here. And if you're not getting power over here, the problem could be under the relay inside the box, or it could be because you have no ground supply right here and your ground is broken. So that would go from, it's a white and black wire that goes from the fuel pump to the base of left B pillar, which is your second row seating, the metal pillar that goes from the floor up to the top. There's a fuel pump ground there. If you're doubting that, you can change that ground back there to somewhere by the pump, which a lot of people do, and it's an acceptable practice because only the pump runs off that. So you relocating that ground would not be a bad thing. It probably would be a good thing. So you check for power here. If you got power here, you check for ground at the black and white wire at the connector. If you don't have any ground, then go ahead and add your ground in there. Check your wire right there. See if you can identify where the break is. If you can identify where the break is, then fix it. If you can't and it's hidden, go ahead and cut that with about 1.5 inches, 2 inches out of it. Give yourself a nice butt splice, weather pack, whatever you want. Solder is the best, but I know not everybody's going to do that. Go ahead and put in a connector. Run your own white and black wire if you can. If you can't get a black and white wire, then just get a black wire and ground it out somewhere around the tank. Then you got your ground back. You might hear your fuel pump turn on. Well, if that doesn't work, you may have an issue. So if you got this here and you're coming around, you got no power. When this pole's pulled over, you got no power here. This pole pulled over should be energized by over here. Comes up, goes through that pole and that leg, and then it goes down. So you got no power here. Try to follow your white wire to your pump. Okay, and no power there. Now you got to backtrack on that black and red wire. You got to go over here to this side on that black and red wire, and when this 15 amp fuse is excited, it pulls that pole closed. That then ends up sending power off of this leg through the brown wire, up through here, through pin 5, and actually back down the white wire to the fuel pump. So you may have an issue with another relay that you're not aware of, that they actually work in conjunction with each other. It's easy to check this out. Check the 25 amp fuse, check the 15 amp fuse, check power at your different strategic points, and check and make sure you have your grounds. This here is an EFI relay. It's got a white and black ground, front right front fender. If these grounds aren't there, this won't energize, and when you go to start the vehicle, you're not going to get power on this lead. So make sure you check those grounds, make sure you check this ground, make sure you check your powers at those pins before you go running a Scotty Killmore wire. If you meet too much resistance, you may end up causing a fire, and then bye-bye to your Toyota Sienna, whatever you say. I know this may be a little confusing, but I mean this with the best of intention. Follow technicians that are going to take the time to help you out. Don't follow people like him. They're not going to lead you in the right direction, and you may end up getting hurt. Be blessed.